Welcome to New Life Live with Stephen Arterburn. For 35 years, New Life has been transforming lives one at a time thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's today's host, Becky Brown.
Hello, everyone. We're so grateful that you have decided to listen and get smarter, because that's what we do here. We want you to learn and to engage with us, and we've got some calls lined up, and we want to hear from you always. 1-800-229-3000. And by we, I mean Dr. Alice Benton and JJ West. Hello, you guys. We are ready to take some calls, but first I want to hear, Alice, what is on your mind these days?
Well, I want to challenge all of us parents and families to take more authority about how we handle conversations about sexuality, to make more proactive, intentional decisions about how our children will learn about sexuality. Because the world is sending a lot of messages through many different channels. So our children, much younger than they used to, are going to be learning. And admittedly, our parental power is somewhat limited, but there are specific steps that we can take to help steer the course of those conversations. Just last night, my daughter asked if she could watch a new cartoon that she had found, and it was through a streaming app that has generally been safe. I'd never heard of the cartoon, looked it up, and it has sexual portrayals of different relationships, different forms of sexuality being presented, and still in somewhat of a lighthearted way, but it's more than I want my daughter to learn from another source. I wouldn't have known, though, if I hadn't done the review on the show, because it just looked like a child's cartoon. Historically, I think we were better able to trust the broader range. If it's a cartoon, I'm sure that it's pretty innocent. Some of the comic books called graphic novels that we pick up from the library also have a subtle inclusion of different sexual presentations. And I think our children need to learn about how sexuality does present and how it's practiced in the world. We do need to become aware of it, but it's important for us parents to decide at what age and through what means. If our children are older, that might more involve asking what has already happened, what have they learned, and from whom did they learn it, from what source. But if your children are still young, it can seem like a whole lot of time and energy, but doing the reviews before we watch the movie, the cartoon, before we let our children read those books, it can prevent a lot of confusion and struggle and difficulty later on down the road.
Such a good insight. JJ, you have children that are a little bit older than Alice's. I'm sure this has been a discussion at your house too.
Indeed. And I agree with Alice that it takes extra effort and work on our part. When my kids were growing up, I read all of the books that they were interested in reading because I didn't want them to be informed from a different perspective that I wasn't aware of. Now, it didn't mean that they weren't allowed to read anything. It just meant that I needed to preview, like Alice talked about. I needed to know what was being presented, how it was being presented, and so that we could have conversations around whether or not this is something that we agree with. Is it acceptable? What's the motive of this particular author or this particular director or whatever? So we have to be really involved, and it does take work. It does take time. To read all those books or preview those movies or go to the websites and to find out more. But it's so important because, like Alice said, it's coming at us from every direction.
I love that you brought this up, Alice. We get calls about this later in a child's life. And, raising kids it's not set it and forget it. It's constantly interacting with them and, having these conversations so that it's not a lecture, so that they know that they can come to you when their thoughts have been challenged, or maybe, they don't know what to do with what they've been exposed to, but they know that you can be a safe place, a good resource, and point them in the right direction. Thank you, Alice, for sharing that. We're going to take some calls after this break. We're glad you're here.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn from New Life Live, and Chris Williams and I are doing the Emotional Freedom Workshop A lot of people are you could literally say, in bondage from past trauma that has created an emotional web that they don't understand, and it prevents them from being free. A person that loses their temper regularly is not emotionally free. Someone who has anxiety just to get in the car and leave the house is not emotionally free. And walking around with the shame from a childhood or even a bad relationship as an adult, that is not emotional freedom, and we can help you get there.
The New Life Emotional Freedom Online Intensive is Saturday, March 16th. Steve Arterburn, Chris Williams, and Dr. Jackie Mack Harris will present information on trauma, depression, codependency, and more. And small group leaders will help you process the information you learn. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or register online at newlife.com. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. I wasn't sure if we were going to do a roll-in. That was my fault. But hey, you guys were all, you're waiting for me to talk. So I'm just glad that you're here. We're going to go right to the calls. We're going to talk with Jeffrey, who's calling us from Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, listens on WBYN. Hi, Jeffrey. Thanks for calling. How can we help you today?
Hi. Yeah. I was calling about Every Man's Battle. I've kind of struggled in the past with like the concerns about like use of financial stuff, and so when I was looking up going to like one of the conferences, one of the meetings out there, the price point kind of took me aback, and I've gotten, by the way, just as a side thing, I've gotten much better in trusting that whatever I put my money, if it's towards the right resources, and just kind of trusting God will use that the right way and steward that the right way. Like I believe that is the case, but I think it's also wise to ask about it. So I was just curious about how that money was stewarded and used for the kingdom.
That's a great question, Jeffrey, and you've got the right person to answer the call today. JJ, how would you answer this with Jeffrey?
Yeah, so just so I'm clear, Jeffrey, you're asking how is the registration fee for the Every Man's Battle Intensive, how is that used or how is that distributed? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, great question. So number one, there's facilities, right? We have a hotel that we stay in. There are fees to pay the staff that are running the workshop, running the intensive for the weekend. There's obviously the cost of getting the leaders there, so travel costs, as well as getting all of the equipment there that we use to do the weekend. So it's kind of spread out through those different avenues, if you will. I can tell you that we don't make a profit.
Amen to that.
I can tell you for certain that we don't make a profit. In fact, and we also want to be very clear that we never want finances to be the reason why someone doesn't attend an intensive. And so we have a great scholarship program available that people can inquire about, so that there's lots of different reasons why we might object to going to the intensive. But we never want finances to be the sole reason or the main reason why. And so we do everything we can to make sure that guys are able to get to the Every Man's Battle Intensive. And in fact, the largest percentage of the scholarships that we offer every year go to guys attending the Every Man's Battle Intensive.
That's right.
But hopefully that answers your question. It's mainly spread out through facilities and travel, and then just paying the leaders to be there.
Does that help, Jeffrey?
That does. Thank you very much.
Well, we'd love for you to join us. We also have our online version too that somebody can participate in. It's a little bit less, but it's no less impactful. We also have our facilitators that JJ were talking about. These guys are experts in this field. So it's not like somebody who, they're amazing people and have helped so many men over the years get to that freedom. And so, we want you to be with us for sure, Jeffrey. Have you tried anything other than just looking into the intensive?
I bought the book. So my brothers and I are wanting to do something together. So we were looking into it, and so we bought the Every Man's Battle book, and we haven't started yet. But I just kind of threw on the radio, and I was like, you know what? This is something I was curious about and wanted to know about. So I decided to call and ask about it.
Well, Jeffrey, let me let you know about one other resource that might be useful to you and your brothers. We launched in January the Every Man's Battle podcast, and we did it intentionally as a way to let guys know about some of the stuff that we do at the intensive that either for whatever reason they haven't been able to get to the intensive. We also launched it, to be perfectly honest, no secrets held back here. Because we believe in the intensive, we did it as a way to let people know about the intensive. We know how impactful that weekend is, how many men have been transformed by it, and we know that there are so many men who simply don't know about the workshop, don't know about the intensive, don't know what we do there, and so we wanted to get the word out in a more impactful way. But what some groups are doing is using the podcast as a discussion starter that then allows them to meet as a group and talk about, okay, how are we responding to this information and how are we applying it to our lives?
There you go, Jeffrey. You heard it straight from the podcaster person's mouth. And JJ, I know that you want to see Jeffrey there, but that is a good connection point. And Jeffrey, you can download that podcast wherever you get your podcast. And just want to encourage you. We're going to connect you with one of our call center representatives that can help you have all of your questions answered about this. What book should we send him, JJ?
Let's send him Worthy of Her Trust.
Perfect. That's beautiful. We're so grateful that you called, Jeffrey. We love questions like that because we have no secrets. Like you said, JJ, we want people to get the help that they need. And we're so grateful for the opportunity to do that. We're going to go back to the calls. We're going to talk with John, who's calling us from Prince George, British Columbia, and listens on Sirius XM. Hello, John. We're so glad you called. How can we help you today?
Yeah, I'm just calling in regards to, it's a marriage question. Me and the wife have been married for 20 years. We're dedicated to its marriage till death do us part. Now, the bad part, we haven't been intimate for like 12 years. It's like treading water in Jell-O. I mean, it's like I'm living with my sister. She, we've made that commitment for life, but there's got to be more than where we're at.
That's great, John. Alice, what would you start with?
John, how did it come about that you're living with your sister? Does that mean you're living separated from your wife?
No, he means she's the sister.
I see. She's become like a sister to you.
We love each other, but there's no love like a wife and a husband anymore. No more intimacy. We'll hold hands or something, but that's as far as anything goes. And there's just been so much turmoil and commotion. We lost our youngest son about 5 years ago. That added a whole bunch to the dimension. And so there's just got to be more than living, there's got to be more to marriage.
And John, as you acknowledge, my goodness, the loss of a child and other turmoil, your marriage has been through some war-torn seasons here for the last few years. And we do see in marriages that sometimes sexual intimacy is lost when couples are under great distress and are struggling dealing with the death of a child and other significant losses. What kind of structured help have you and your wife gotten for both what you've been through, but also the level of intimacy in your relationship?
Well, basically, I go to counseling and she goes to counseling, but there's a lot of it's been secular, and almost every counselor I've ever talked to says, get out of this marriage and run. Well, that's not the answer, and then that's the end of my sessions with that counselor, because I've made it a commitment that I'm going to be with my wife till the day I die, even if there's nothing there till the day we die.
And is there something even more hurtful coming from your wife, because of which the counselors say get out of that marriage? In addition to the lack of intimacy, is there some hurtful, abusive mistreatment going on from your wife?
I wouldn't say there's any other than maybe on both sides some verbal, right? Like we're both so hurt and we just are clashing. I mean, there's times that it's awesome and great, but there's times that it's mind-boggling.
You know, it's really a challenge because after 20 years, what's happened, John, is you guys are now in this new routine. And so it is like you described, the Jell-O thing, whether it is your intimate life or your everyday connection, and on top of that, the pain that you've experienced. JJ, how can a couple like John and his wife reconnect and make this marriage the one that is meant for them to have?
Well, it all starts with communication, right? Open and honest communication. So, John, clearly you're making the call to us today, so you're indicating I would like more physical intimacy in our relationship. Do you know if your wife also wants more physical intimacy, or has she said, no, I'm no longer interested in?
No, she's 100%. We just don't know how to get there. We want
so both of you want it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's important to know, right? That's a really critical piece of the puzzle here, that we both desire more physical intimacy, but something's getting in the way. And so when you talk about what's getting in the way, is it that we don't have the time, we're not making the time to spend with each other? Are there distractions, or is there are we experiencing some sort of sexual dysfunction, whether it's erectile dysfunction or dryness that's making it painful for us or uncomfortable for us? But we have to talk about those things in an open dialogue in order to find the things that need to change to make things better. Thank God that you're in a position where you both want more. You both desire more. So it's not one person's got one foot out the door and the other person's trying to get them to stay. You both want to be in the relationship. You both want to experience this, but something's getting in the way of that. What's interesting to me, you said you've been married for 20 years. There's been no intimacy for 12. So for 8 years, there was intimacy, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And when intimacy stopped 12 years ago, 8 years into marriage, did you guys talk about, hey, we haven't been intimate in the last several weeks or couple of months. What's going on?
Well, I suffer from addiction, and I put her through a horrible turmoil for a few years. I had relapsed, and I was an absolute nightmare.
Okay. Are we talking about drug addiction, alcohol, or are we talking about
drug, alcohol? Yeah, everything. Drugs, alcohol,
everything.
Infidelity, everything.
Okay, gotcha. So for her, a big piece of the puzzle is that she doesn't know if she can trust you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so are you actively doing work, not just to be in recovery in terms of the addiction, that's important, but also are you actively doing things to rebuild, restore trust with your wife so that she feels safe enough to be that vulnerable with you?
I think that's where it comes in, that we're kind of needing help, because I think I am.
Yeah.
I think I'm doing all the right, I think I'm doing all the right things, and that's what I want. But whether
Right.
I am, whether I am
you
or
might
not,
be working on a whole bunch of stuff, but but it's not moving the needle for her, right?
Correct.
And
Yeah.
John, you revealed something to us, that you two are an individual but not in couples counseling, and that you quit when you hear from the counselor that you should leave the marriage. And so that's one of the signs that those two areas need more of your attention. Figuring out why you're not in couples therapy and then moving in that direction. And then for you, finding a therapist who is for the reconciliation of your marriage, knowing that you all are up against a lot. There are a lot of hurt and ruptures here. And it's in the not quitting, John, finding the right fit of a therapist, even if you have to try multiple times. But we can help connect you with a person who is skilled in the areas that you and your wife need the assistance. So it will be by your perseverance and your quick humility in conversation with your wife that will help start to bridge the gap.
Yeah, I agree. We're going to send you a copy of How We Love. We're going to get you connected. I know we don't have Canadian therapists, but I'm going to get you information about our intimacy and marriage intensive someday. Maybe you guys can join us there. We also have our life recovery groups that know no boundaries. We have them all over the place, and you can join us either by Zoom or phone call, but we want to help you guys make this marriage work. We don't want you to suffer in the struggle. But John, thanks for calling and thanks for revealing your desire to be connected with your wife. We'll be right back after this.
When you give to the New Life Scholarship Fund, you're giving someone hope for a brighter future.
I was kind of in the closet and hid with my struggle. Your donation really made the difference, especially in my situation, because I would have getting laid off from my job.
At the New Life Intensives, hurting people are able to begin a new path towards healing and freedom that has an effect on all of those around them.
I think the people who support New Life financially are people that I'll never know. I'll never be able to thank them personally for the gift that they gave to us. Their giving saved me, my husband, and our family from being torn apart.
To help hurting people to connect to the help they need, make your gift to the Scholarship Fund at newlife.com or by calling 1-800-NEW-LIFE and specifying scholarships.
Someone called and sponsored me to come this weekend. Whoever that is, just know that you saved a life. Literally, you saved my life.
1-800-NEW-LIFE. Dr. Heidi Summers on coaching.
A lot of people don't understand the difference between counseling and coaching. Coaches can help you with strategizing. Not everyone is in a crisis or recovering from a trauma. A lot of people just need help getting to where they want to be, and they don't know how to do that. And so it's helpful to have a third party come in to give objective feedback, set goals, create accountability, and help you walk out what your goals actually are.
If you need a coach for life, your career, relationships, your health and fitness, leadership, and more, call New Life today and ask about the New Life Coaching Network. Our coaches have been trained and screened with the same intensive process we use for our network counselors.
Coaches are intended to help you live in the present and goal set toward what it is you want for the future.
Take control of your life and take action to achieve your goals. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and talk to us about getting a New Life coach today. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
I'm Stephen Arterburn with a New Life Moment. The word discipline tends to put people on the defensive because it's often mistakenly associated with the idea of punishment. That's really unfortunate and very inaccurate. The word discipline comes from Latin, where it means student. That's why Webster's dictionary defines discipline as a training experience that corrects, molds, strengthens, or perfects. And that's why Jesus calls those who follow him in his faith his disciples. Through the centuries, Christians have stimulated their life in Christ by practicing what are called spiritual disciplines. But as our culture has increasingly lost the ability to be informed by its past, and as society grows ever more permissive and lax, the spiritual disciplines have been forsaken and almost forgotten, and that's really a shame. Would you like to learn more about the spiritual disciplines? I can help you if you'll visit me, Steve Arterburn, at newlife.com. Thanks for listening to this New Life Moment.
I'm so grateful for that insight, because a lot of times we do think of discipline as punishment, even when we're trying to do it with ourselves, right? But it is training, and I hope that Steve's wisdom will encourage you. We're going to go back to the calls, and we are going to talk with Teresa who's calling us from Tampa, Florida, and watches us on YouTube. We're grateful for our YouTube family. If you are watching us there, please subscribe and click that like button so other people will know about New Life Live. Enough about that. Teresa, how can we help you?
Thank you so much for taking my call. So I have been in recovery for the last 2 years in your life recovery program, and I'm so grateful for it. But one of the things I've noticed is I have a 4-year-old grandson, and I have a hard time with my son not kind of butting in and like giving my advice and opinion. And there are times I can do it, but then there are moments I'm like on the edge of my seat, and before I know it, I like just spill it all out. And I'm not really sure why I do that, and I want to get in front of that. I've gone to your parenting workshop, and I've heard Jim Burns speak, and he had great advice, and it's like I know that, but there are different times that I just think, let me just share what I think. And I'm not sure why I do that.
Your self-awareness and honesty is so refreshing. I got a big smile on my face that you're the kind of mom and mother-in-law that knows this about yourself, and you're working on it. Way to go, Teresa. Is there anything majorly concerning about your son and daughter-in-law that you think they're really falling short, or you worry that they have big blind spots in their parenting?
Well, that's a good question. I feel like they have a blind spot as it relates to some of the stuff with school for him. Like, there are things that I think that different steps they could take because he's struggling sometimes in school. Like, he's in this little pre-K school, and I feel like they are not really aware of it, and I feel like I notice it, and I don't want to ignore it. Because I feel like we can get him some help if we can get to it ahead of time.
What's one of the most concerning behaviors you're seeing that they're not putting enough attention to?
That he's having, like, temper tantrums at school. He's getting in trouble for not following the directions, not going to sleep, not taking naps when they do, or someone took something from him and then he scratched this little boy. And that, to me, was concerning, and I felt like they just kind of dismissed it.
And do you think their attention is divided mainly because of work and how busy they are, or is there something really unhealthy that's pulling their attention away, like substance use?
No, I just think they're not aware of it. Like, their attention, they look at it like he's still young, and I'm looking at it like, oh, wait, what, is there something we need to do about it? And so it also causes, it causes fear and sometimes anxiety within me.
JJ, what would you offer to Teresa about this?
Oh, well, Teresa, I don't have grandkids yet, but I can certainly understand the love that you have for your grandson and wanting him to have a great life and to grow and mature and to grow in favor and stature with the Lord. I like Alice said, I so appreciate your willingness to look inward and pay attention to what's going on with you, and wanting to respect the boundary of your son and daughter-in-law's relationship with their child, right? The parent-child relationship, wanting to respect that, and trying to balance that with, I love my grandson and I want good for him, and I don't want him to suffer in any way possible, right? So I can respect and I can admire all of that. I think that it's important to communicate that very clearly with your son and daughter-in-law, to say, hey, if I offer a different perspective or advice or whatever, it's coming from a place of love and care, and to recognize that I have to work on my self-control, right? Because that's a fruit of the Spirit, right? It's self-control. Yeah. And so when I am saying things that I've been trying to hold back and then I just blurt them out, I'm actually lacking self-control, so I'm not letting the Spirit do His work in me. And that's where I have to do that on my own, right? I can't make it about what they are doing or not doing.
Yeah, I love that, JJ. Teresa, I am a grandma, and they don't always do it the way that I want them to, but I can sure love them, and I can trust. If I don't, like what Alice was asking, if you don't see anything that's problematic, it's going to be lean in with love and speak kindly as often as you can. We'll be right back after this.
We all face days where life throws us a curveball and our routines or plans get disrupted. Things we wanted to do are forced to take a backseat to the unexpected demands of the day. If you normally listen to New Life Live on a radio station, well, you might not be able to that day. And on these hectic days when you're feeling stressed or frazzled, hearing the sound of counsel given on New Life Live is just what you need to navigate the unexpected things of life.
Every time I'm troubled or I have a problem, I'll cut on New Life, and there's always something that is said that is helpful to me.
By listening, I have learned more than I can ever express about how God wants me to live.
Download the New Life app for the easiest way to listen wherever you are and at a time that's convenient for you, or watch the show on our YouTube channel. You can even subscribe to our podcast from your favorite podcast provider. You never have to miss a day of New Life. Wherever you are, we are.
I have given to New Life regularly because I have so many people that I am referring to New Life who so benefit from the ministry. I just can't imagine what would happen in my area if New Life wasn't available to us.
You can help New Life Live stay on the air by joining Club New Life today. When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, we'll send you the new member thank you gift of all 8 100-day devotionals, including 100 Days of Prayer, 100 Days of Freedom from Depression, and 100 Days of Peace. There are also ongoing benefits like the monthly Club New Life CD or download, access to the Club New Life video library, quarterly resources, free shipping on purchased resources, discounts on workshops, and quarterly online meetings with Steve. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Support Club New Life, and together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. Just a reminder that Restore starts tomorrow, and we love watching women having this healthy experience of healing, connection, learning about what their choices are when they've experienced sexual betrayal. And there's so much hope that comes with Restore. And so we want to encourage you, if this has been part of your story, please don't hesitate. Reach out today and we'll get you connected. We were just talking at the break about Teresa's call and just the challenge as a grandparent, because life is not the same as when we were raising our kids, but we love them so very much. And I had said to Alice, it's crazy when you think about the differences between how we were raised and then how the next generation and so on and so forth. But boy, as a grandma, I just pray for my grandkids and hope for the best. But Alice, what were you thinking about that call?
It's just so sadly rare when unsolicited advice is taken well or is helpful to the one receiving it. And sometimes we have to give contrary opinions because a truth needs to be told. That should be incredibly rare with our adult children, and especially adult in-law children, daughter-in-law. And so I'd be very, very cautious, Teresa, to hardly give unsolicited opinions at all. But you might set a little something up where you ask them, if you have a good relationship with them, how are you two doing with how school is going for your son? Then you might admit, I'm worried, honestly. I'm worried and I really want to be helpful to you all. And I realize that in my worry, I give too many opinions, probably too frequently. How is that affecting you? And have I ever rubbed you wrong in what I have said? How would you prefer I help with this? Is it by silence, by prayer, just by moral support? Or are my opinions sometimes helpful? And can I bring them to you? If they are helpful, can I? How often? And by asking those questions, it should better inform you what they do and do not want from you if they have the ability to be that assertive, because it's hard to be honest enough about this with your mom or your mother-in-law.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you, Teresa, for bringing up this subject, and I hope that something that we've said is helpful. I am going to send you a copy of 100 Days of Prayer, because as a grandparent, that's what you're going to need. But we're grateful that you called. We're going to go back to the calls. We're going to talk with Renee, who's calling us from Naples, Florida, and listens on Sirius XM. Hello, Renee. Thanks for calling. How can we help you today?
Hi, thank you for taking my call. I want to give you a little background, a little snippet of a background. We moved to Florida. We were just elated. This is our dream, being retired here, and ran into a couple that we seemed to click with. At least my husband did with the other husband. We did a lot of stuff together for like almost a year and a half. So we were really too much involved in their life, and they were too much involved in our life. Going forward, I realized I had a conversation without my husband to the couple in the driveway, letting them know that, hey, I don't smoke a lot, but I'm being convicted that I need to put these down. And they were like, really, you smoke? And I was like, yeah. And I said, I really need to take care of myself, pull back, and then we can pick up later. And they were like, oh, okay. Didn't think nothing about it. I don't think they understand addiction at all, because they kept calling, asking us to do things, and, I was like, no, thank you. Going forward, I told my husband, because she told her husband that I was curt to her, which I wasn't. She was making up little stories that I was, and I wasn't. This sounds so childish, and I'm like, I'm in my 60s. This has got, going on, and I'm being honest and open with that couple. My question is, how do I manage being around the couple in our development that we had a falling out with? I mean, we're going to be seeing them from time to time with pickleball and, events that are in our development. I do know about addiction. My ex-husband was an alcoholic, and so I am 20-plus years in Al-Anon. My old sponsor told me I need to get a sponsor here, face-to-face, instead of being on the phone with her, and so I did that just recently. And I know this might be a silly question, but I'm just asking, I want to be comfortable in my own skin. I didn't do anything. So why am I feeling like this?
Well,
is it the people
Renee,
personality that...
Let me ask you this question. We'll turn it over to Allison. JJ, you're saying that you quit smoking cigarettes after how many years?
35 years.
Okay. And what was your process of quitting smoking?
I reached out. Florida has this 1-800-QUIT now, and I did counseling through the steps of nicotine replacement, and then slowly backing off of that, and then stopped with the nicotine replacement.
All right. And
just
how long have you been off of the cigarettes?
January the 11th of this year is 1 year.
Oh,
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, Renee, that is, I'm telling you, the reason why I'm asking all these questions is because I think there are two things that are going on. And I know that JJ and Alice are thinking that same thing, because nicotine is the hardest drug to give up, the hardest one.
Yeah.
And so kudos to you.
God.
Yes.
Only by grace.
That's awesome. All right. Well, JJ, let's start with you. How can we help Renee with this challenge?
Yeah. So, Renee, first question for you. Help me understand, how does your quitting smoking cigarettes connect with this couple? You said you needed to pull back from them in order to quit. Is it something about the way that you interact with them, or was it just I need some alone time in order to walk through the recovery process?
I needed some alone time to walk through the recovery process. I've quit before, like 5 years ago, but it didn't stick because of a trauma, seeing my son.
Okay.
So I
Gotcha.
didn't want to be, I didn't want to affect them anyway with any harsh words that I might have going through the process, because it's very hard. It's very hard. So the first 3 months especially. And so I had to focus on me and do whatever I needed to do to take care of me.
Okay, gotcha. So this other wife spoke with your husband and said that you were hurt with her, which you're saying, hey, I wasn't, which I get. Have you ever gone to her
No, she spoke with her own husband.
I'm sorry, she spoke to her own husband, who then spoke to your husband, correct?
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. So it might be helpful for you to sit down with her and just have a one-on-one conversation. You did, and in that conversation, were you able to humbly ask her, what was it that I said or did that made you feel like I was being curt with you?
I didn't say that exactly.
What did you say?
Well, I looked at her and I said, I was going to make a list of all the things that, was hurtful. And I stopped and I said, but I did not do that because I have expectations of how a friend should be. And so those are probably what's getting us in trouble is my expectations. And I said, for instance, what's going on with my sister, and it's very devastating with her health, and she is going to be passing away. And I said, you never did ask me about how she's doing. And she looked at me and she goes, I don't do that. And I'm like, what? I was just devastated. And I said, in my 61 years of life, I have never had somebody to say that to me. And I don't know how to take that. And I said, you know what? I don't want somebody in my life that doesn't care about me.
Yeah. Okay. So this is more about your hurt. You're feeling hurt by this friend not being a good friend to you, than feeling some sense of uncomfortableness that you did something wrong. It's really more about, gosh, I needed this person to be a friend to me, and she wasn't.
I guess that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Oh. Renee, you can hear the music. We're going to come back after the break. But, navigating adult friendships is challenging. But at the same time, we have to learn how to move past when people tell you who they are, believe them. And even though you guys started out with a good friendship, it doesn't look like she's the kind that you're going to continue to stay connected with, and it hurts. And it just kind of coincided with your quitting your smoking. But we'll give you a few pointers when we come back after the break of how to move forward when you have to leave others behind. It doesn't feel good, but we can do it.
For most of my life, I've been dealing with an opiate addiction.
Why is opioid addiction quickly becoming one of our nation's biggest killers? Maybe it's because it isn't only those who are addicted who are in denial.
We did what I see so many parents do, is it can't be an addiction. There's something medically wrong.
It's impossible to solve a problem when you don't know what you're up against, and families will try to find any explanation except the one that will put them on the right path.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a family disease. It doesn't affect just the individual.
If someone you love is abusing painkillers, know what you're up against. It's time to admit its addiction and seek treatment. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have partner treatment centers around the country. Call 1-800-639-5433 or visit us online at newlife.com.
We just made a decision. We will do whatever it takes.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn, and for over 34 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
Your ministry has saved my life.
If you struggle with emotional hurt, family, or marriage problems, the pit of depression, or the pain of addictions, we can help.
I'm down 100 pounds now from what I was.
Our treatment programs provide clinically appropriate solutions from licensed professionals, all in a biblical framework.
I have had problems with alcohol. I think God has ordained this place to be His.
You don't have to be a prisoner of your pain. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
She tells me that I'm a new man, and I feel like a new man.
It worked for me, and it can work for them too.
This time it is different.
If you're ready to take the first step towards genuine spiritual and emotional healing, call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. God can open the door to a better tomorrow. Call 1-800-639-5433.
To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. Just FYI, you never have to miss a day of listening to New Life Live. If you can't listen on the radio, there's many other ways that you can hear us, whether it's the app or whether it's the podcast. We just want to stay in contact with you. Right now, we're talking with Renee, who has had just a challenge with a friend in a new neighborhood, even at the time that she's overcome a smoking addiction, which is a huge victory. Alice, how can we help Renee move forward in this healing process?
Well, I think JJ really started it by helping you, Renee, to get to that soft, vulnerable place where tears came up for you. And I think that even surprised you. You know you're hurt. You've named some major tragedies that you have gone through, and there's a lot more you have lived through. But I would guess you experience probably more frustration than you do the grief that came to that surface right there before we went to break. And grief is the answer. Grieving, lamenting intentionally in the presence of somebody like JJ, who was safe enough to help draw that out of you, that will bring surprising relief when you enter into grief with all these different relationships that have been hurt and impacted in your life. I'm also going to challenge you, Renee, on something. And I say this from one sister to another because I care about you. Sometimes when you're trying to express your hurt, it comes out in a way that's hard for others to receive. It can have a little bit of a defense to it. You make some declarations that would be hard for a person who's not in recovery to hear. It might put other people somewhat on the defensive. So although you had no intention to be hurt to your friend, just in the way even I heard the tone of your voice sometimes, I could see why your friend might have experienced that way, even though you didn't mean it that way. And when we have pain that hasn't been processed enough yet, it usually does leak out in unexpected ways. Then when you bravely enter into sobriety from nicotine, which is so hard to break that cycle, then it can also add a little bit of an edge to the way that we interact with people. So grieve and be open to hearing how the way you express your hurt affects the people around you.
Yes, that's very good. Renee, we'll send you Take Your Life Back, which I think will help along your healing process and also dealing with new friendships that may not be permanent friendships. You might just be a friendly neighbor and wave and decide to be the type of person that God's created you to be. It's really hard to navigate these things, but we're so grateful that you called, and we're celebrating your victory over cigarettes, and we'll continue to pray for that relief in that relationship. Right now, we're going to go to a flashback call.
Becky, can I say one more thing?
If it's really quick, but go ahead, JJ.
Yeah, real quick. So, Renee, I would just say, be aware that it doesn't have to be an all or nothing. You now have a clearer understanding of what you can expect from this relationship with your friend. It may just be that she's a friend that you play pickleball with and see around the neighborhood, but isn't someone that you're going to share deeply with. But then you need to look for that elsewhere, because that's an important part of your life.
Yes, so true, so true. I think that that's just the balance of our adult relationships. All right. So, Terry, do we have enough time? Can we go to that call?
Yes, let's do it.
Let's go over here to Alan from Laurel, Delaware. WOLC is the station. Alan, how are you?
Great. How are you?
Good. What's going on in your life today?
Well, I've had a problem with anxiety all my life.
Okay.
And I've tried to deal with it, and I really didn't know that I really had a problem with anxiety when I was a kid. I used to go to school and would be sick and nauseous and everything, and I've changed my job. I own my own business, and I have some rentals, so... And I changed what I was doing and started teaching, and actually teaching Bible, and at a school, and just really had a hard year this year. I've been to the hospital a couple of times for anxiety, where I had jerking and all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
And
so the physical part's pretty severe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And my question would be is how do I deal with this so I can try and do that job, or should I find something else to do until I can get a handle on it?
Have you ever had treatment for anxiety, Alan?
What's that?
Have you ever had treatment for anxiety?
Treatment as in what type of treatment?
Counseling, psychotherapy, psychiatrist?
No.
Why not?
Well, it's just happened, so I'm just not sure what direction to go. The doctor actually put me on some medication because the hospital wanted me to go to a neurologist, so I haven't quite pursued that. I've made some phone calls to try to find some counselors.
Yeah. Anxiety is very,
Alan,
I mean, certainly pursue the neurology end of it, but anxiety is very treatable. There are really good counseling techniques as well as medications for people these days.
The thing that I think is so incapacitating about anxiety disorder is that your fears lead to more fears. You just think this is never going to get better, and so then you worry about that, and it just compounds each other. I think you have to have somebody that says, here is the treatment regimen that we're going to offer you. We're going to try this medication. Okay, if that doesn't work, we're going to try another one, and we're going to try to take you through this material, and then we're going to try to deal with the underlying issues that you've got. And we're going to try to connect this with some spiritual things too. And you develop a program rather than, my job is to struggle through this and rise above it. That's a horrible way to go.
Yeah, Alan, we just don't believe in coping through anxiety.
Right.
God has, I think, much better plan than just, like Steve said, struggling through. And I want to give you 2 words to, as you're pursuing, should you go for counseling or inpatient or whatever, 2 words to be thinking about. And I start with Galatians chapter 5 in the first couple of verses, where Paul said it was for freedom that Christ set you free. Don't go back to a yoke of slavery. The first word is freedom. And where does freedom come from? Because people who have anxiety don't have a lot of freedom. They feel like if I teach these kids the wrong thing, they're going to get mad or whatever, and so I don't feel free. The second word is control. People who have lots of anxiety do not feel like they have control, and so they have to over-control their lives. That's why they can't fly places. That's why they can't sometimes go sing in front of people or whatever, because they don't feel like they have to keep such control because they're afraid of going out of control. When people who have chronic anxiety begin to experience freedom and control, many, many aspects of the anxiety begin to dissolve, really, and just melt away. So whatever you do, whatever the next path is that we're suggesting that Steve has ideas for, those 2 words are going to be very important for you. But we think there's lots of hope for that.
We do think there's lots of hope for that. But boy, those were great perspectives on the topic of anxiety. Alice, you and I were talking earlier in the break about how resistant people are to just looking for where the answer will come from. And that's what he's talking about. We don't believe in just coping. We want to look for ways to find the help that we need. Any thoughts just before we close?
Well, two areas in which we tend to be so resistant are pride. I don't want to admit that I need somebody else's help. And I can speak for myself on that one because I fall into it. And that fear John and Steve were talking about, I'm too afraid it won't work for me. It'll be too hard. It'll cost too much. And so I'm going to stick with the pain that I'm familiar with rather than the unfamiliar pain of getting help for it. Understandable. But the time will pass anyhow, and the suffering will just increase unless we intervene with structured help.
That's so true. Well, thank you, Alice. Thank you, JJ. And thank you, callers, for asking the hard questions that so many people want to ask but don't take the choice to pick the phone up. But we want to hear from you. Give us a call for future shows, 1-800-229-3000, Monday through Wednesday, 1 to 3.
We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you. But you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again tomorrow for New Life Live.
Thanks for watching today. We love helping people. I hope you sense that. And we know that there's always hope if you find the right resource. Now, if something we've said to somebody else applies to you, that's fantastic. That's what we're hoping for. But also, if you want to join us directly, you can call 1-800-229-3000 between 1 and 3 Eastern Time, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Those are the best times to get through. And while you're here on YouTube, check out these other videos that we've done to help people see where they could grow or a different path to take. And if you do that, would you give us a thumbs up on the video? And please subscribe to this channel. There are many ways that we can help you outside of the radio program, and it's very hard for some to pick up a phone and dial 1-800-NEW-LIFE. But when you do, we put you in touch with somebody who cares about you, knows all the resources out there, and they're going to find the best for you. There is no reason to struggle alone. I hope to see you tomorrow. Hope you'll invite somebody else to come and join that maybe needs just a little bit of help along the way. I'll see you next time.